YouTube friends. This is just a very brief follow-up on my last video for Howdy McCoskey. Fascinating person, extremely insightful commentary he makes on so many different subjects, principally in terms of exposing the illusion of this reality. And he quite often refers to Matt at Quantum of Conscience, who I've listened to as well, but it becomes somewhat repetitive. The idea of looking and analyzing the physical world and how it is an illusion and how it is fabricated and manufactured, like the Matrix idea. Extremely valuable, but at a certain point it becomes redundant. And I was just thinking there's a couple of things. One, I had a great comment on the art side of things on my last video by a person who has also listened to Howdy and mentioned the fact that Howdy is very concerned that any kind of the art, the creative person, the art, for example, that a creative person produces could be abused or used by the AI, the system, and as such makes him wary of creativity. Although I don't think he's opposed in the sense of creativity being an essential problem within the simulation. It's just that it shouldn't contribute to the continuation of the seduction of keeping us in the headlights of this reality where it really doesn't matter. And I just clarified what my position as a painter would be in terms of what it is that I make. And I'm not a painter who is interested in some sort of a spiritual art or anything. It's not something that has ever really interested me. It's like this, forget John Gray or whatever, he paints these phantasmagorical images of eyeballs and weird shit. I find that quite sort of unappealing. I get the EBGBs on that stuff. What I think is really underlying what the best way I can explain this for myself is that it creates a basis, it creates a kind of strength within my nature, within my being, that which I would consider to be the essence, something that is really hardcore me, if you want to put it that way. And it's not like hardcore me ego. I have paintings and people clap and pay me and, you know, I get notoriety. It's never been that. Hey, it's great to sell a painting. For me, it's like, fantastic. Somebody's willing to put out their hard-earned money to have one of my paintings on the wall. Fucking A. I like it. I like it. But I will make a painting no matter what, whether it sits in my studio for 30 years or whether somebody likes it and buys it. It's like it's doesn't matter. And what I think for me, when I thought about this, what underlies that impulse, that desire to express something in the sense, okay, the creative force is like a thing that wants to come out of us. It's kind of part of our nature, like conscience. It's like built in. There's something within a fully functioning human being that says, I'm curious, I'm interested, I want to be part of something, I want to connect, I want to have this sense of not having wasted time, whatever that is, or having meaning. All those kind of things are all tied up in this creative process. But fundamentally when I thought about it, to the extent that I've been thinking about it, establishes a basis from which I can grow. So whatever realization I have about anything would come from this process called creativity, art, that gives me a basis of proceeding in a way that makes sense. It's like fundamental. Somehow or other, every person needs to find access to the inner world. The kingdom of God is within that inner world, and creativity is a fabulous tool that gives revelations, gives a sense a person can have of themselves apart from all the riffraff, all the noise around. So the idea of creativity isn't just to support something out there, it's something to support or realize something that is within. I think that's the important part. And I just thought too, in terms of our preoccupation with the world, as that lessens, in other words, as we become less obstructed by the headlights of the obvious, reality is the obvious, as we proceed more toward an inner world without ignoring that we are bodies in this reality, obviously, but less preoccupied with the events around us. Like the circus that is around us keeps us in the headlights, keeps us distracted. So whatever the injustices or brilliances or whatever you want to see out there becomes less and less significant and important. Something I've noticed. I'm not listening very much to any of the events or any of the things happening, maybe to my detriment. I'm not interested in following stock markets or political, social events, historical things, non-historic. I don't know. Whatever is out there is not as interesting. There is a different interest, which is why I come back to the creative thing, which becomes more and more curious how this whole kind of human being, soul, essence, all functions, and creativity is a very good way of connecting with something that is what I say my connection with eternity. I'm not sure if this answers. I think it does. Like how these. I have faith and trust in this man's honesty, and he's not saying all creativity is the root of evil, and it lets the nasty AI do what it wants and seduce people and all that. Yeah, well, it does. I mean, most of the recognized artists, people that are considered to be of such value in the art world, are real charlatans. They're real shitheads. It's like crap. It's garbage. It's like another shit show. It's like you go to museums and you're offered mostly shit shows with seductive elements. I'm not saying there aren't seductive elements that may even have some significance and meaning to a person. Anyway, that's my brief comment on the creative side of things, which is, in essence, a path, a potential path that will maybe even help someone else when they recognize, when they look at something, the vibrations off a painting. There's more to it than the subject. The subject is a secondary issue for me. I think there is something that is communicated through the very material itself, which is what we have to deal with. I am not an ethereal being. I am a body. I work with paints. And those paints, the way I apply and use them, have innate qualities that inform, that create a response in a person. And it's not the subject. Yes, I like a good story, but it's not just it's not the subject. And when we get focused on like these people that are concerned about representing eternity in some way, I mean, I get the EBGBs because the subject is the least interesting. It's the way something is presented and something has been worked that is, for me, of much higher value. And quite often the subject as well becomes interesting then. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there. Um, a curious thing I've noticed, I'm trying to noodle this one as well in terms of my personal state, my physical state. Since I have dealt with the Howdy McCoskey material, this has been maybe 2 weeks now or so, not very long. I've noticed that I'm struggling in certain ways more than I did before. I mean, I have this condition. I've explained my condition in different ways, but it manifests itself in a kind of weakness in my limbs, and it's become more prominent. There has been some levels of relief in some ways, but in another way, I've had, like Howie even mentioned, I heard he said he had headaches. I was for the last 3-4 days, I've had sort of not really extreme, but irritating headaches. Like stuff that it's not debilitating in any way, but I never had it before. So I think there is, as he says, whatever this body, the way it is manipulated and controlled in certain ways, or maybe it's just a response to changing a perspective, a view, and it starts to irritate. It has an innate irritating quality, like Howdy has an irritating quality from the point of view he presents the possibility that the world is not as it appears within his realm of understanding, which is something I'm looking at. I've understood this possibly intuitively, but never had words put to it the way he's put words to it, including his research. So that is of interest personally, how I'm affected physically. And I must say that this sense of this sense of weakness has persisted now much more over the last 3, 4, 5 days. Curiously, since I've been looking into Howdy's some of his posts, and decided to make my own YouTube. And there's, like I've said too, there are good days and bad days. I mean, there's a fluctuation in this. And he actually, I was just listening to one of his comments, or no, rather videos, where he said people contact him to ask for help, which is interesting because there is a kind of, I can see why people might do this, because he appears through his understanding and his ability to articulate this, unravel this mystery, that there is, people are drawn to him. I can feel this in myself. And quite frankly, much more than Matt at Quantum of Conscience. I find him to be not irritating, but I find him to be somewhat clinical almost. Whereas Howdy comes across more of, I sense that compassion, that what he talks about. And he's, understated. I find him to be not in any way excessive in his expression. He's more understated than not, which I think is a wise way to present, because it doesn't feel like, to me, has a dog in the fight outside of what might be important to me. Not to him, but to me. Interesting. When a person can convince me that they don't have a dog in the fight for me to be like them or anything, I pay more attention. See, Matt has this feeling towards me that he has a dog in the fight to make a point. Well, you've done it many times, and you know what? You're probably good to go, Matt. You're good to go. You've done it. How much more can you articulate what a shit show this is and how it's being manipulated? Okay. So Howdy has gone the next level, as far as I'm concerned, in articulating and giving something of himself that Matt doesn't have a clue about. I have a sense that Matt is quite alone with all of this. I mean, we all are alone with all of this, but there isn't the sense of community that I kind of feel that Howdy has developed, because there is a sincerity and an honesty. I'm not saying Matt isn't. I'm just saying that it's a different quality of person that is much more effective as far as I'm concerned. For me, I haven't listened to Matt probably in a year. If I might have skimmed over something because Howdy mentioned about Matt. Now, mind you, that was like a couple of years ago, I think, that he mentioned him. I don't know what their relationship is, if they communicate or what. There's a lot in common. Yes, I see that, and how he's uncovering. But I'll end here and I'll say that what I basically find in myself, I'm no longer caught in the headlights of the obvious. And this is Matt. To me, I'm not saying there are other people that are coming across him for the first time and saying, wow, a swami of insight in terms of the way the world works. I understand that. How many more times do I need to make a video and tell you what you already know? What I've already said many times. I'm looking for a way, same way as in my paintings, that I say the things that haven't been said. This is a whole other topic too, in terms of originality. I've touched on this because I actually feel that everything has been expressed within this experience. You would probably say to yourself, well, how is it possible to express everything, even if you just sort of put a little nudge on a line? It's sort of like those art objects they call glissés, and they just take a photograph of a painting and then just alter a little thing in it, and it's an original. It's like they can promote it as a photograph that's an original because they put a hand stroke of something or other or change the color. It's kind of like that. Originality, yeah, you could make an argument that it's original. It's one of a kind. If you take 20 photographs of your painting and just change something on each of them and it's an original. Yeah, I guess you could make that argument, but I'm not fooled. I am not fooled. And it's in the same way I see art history, and art is kind of like that. There are just little changes made to certain things. And what I don't believe originality, let's put it this way. There had to be somebody to do it first. There's like, I don't know, unless this simulation has already presented us with all the possibilities, all possible possibilities. I don't know, maybe. And we're just sort of regurgitating shit that we've forgotten about. So I'm not placing a lot of importance on originality. I place importance on, like I say, I prefer honesty to truth. And truth is kind of like the idea that there is something original, the truth. Yeah. Well, I'm not a big fan of truth in any form because it is a moving target. I prefer honesty, and honesty is a mode of expressing. I think there is a much higher level of communication when a person is honest. I'm not interested in your truth, although give me the facts. Yeah, ma'am, give me the facts, what the facts you have. But I'm much more concerned and interested in your honesty. And that's the same in art, a painting, any kind of art form. It's not the originality, it's the honesty. And the honesty is usually in the way it's presented, the way it's done. Not the truth of the subject, but the way it's done. Hope that makes sense. Just a follow-up, because it was a wonderful comment a person left on my last video, and yeah, I agree. I agree. We don't want to support the shit show that is reality in any way whatsoever. Withdraw from this reality if necessary. Stop making work if it's being abused. I would agree with that. Would I make a painting if I saw people abusing? I would withdraw. I'm pretty sure. I haven't really thought about this, but it's something that I would seriously consider not to be part of. The way Howdy says, do not support the seductive, to be part of the seduction that drive people back into this reality, you know. Yeah, I would agree with that.